early morning.
Salam alaikum Samsoni, or if you like Sam, Sabalheri. That is, I'm very sure that is how you will have been greeted in Tanzania, should you have been the one there. But right where we are is at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, just next to the presidential pavilion, where the President of the United Republic of Tanzania is expected to touch down any moment from 9 o'clock. And that is where the coverage will begin, definitely, because already at the airport, or where the plane from Tanzania will be landing, preparations are ongoing, the red carpet being laid down, and of course all the flags of the two nations, that is Kenya and Tanzania, already lined up at that landing site. But of course we expect that from 9 to 10 o'clock we'll be expecting that the plane touching the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu Hassan, will be touching down at the JKIA before she proceeds all the way to the State House for the remainder period, or for the remainder schedule that she had for the 2 days. Remember, she is on a 2-day state visit upon the invitation of President Uhuru Kenyatta, and of course security has been tightened around that area where the plane carrying Samia Suluhu will be landing, and of course strict protocols are being followed in terms of security. And we have just been told that we will not be able exactly to access that particular side where she will be landing, and that very few people and very few media houses will be ushered in. But for the rest of us, we will be covering this from a distance. It is a state visit, a president of a neighboring country, and that is exactly why we are being given these strict protocols, security-wise speaking. But most importantly, we are just awaiting for her arrival. Already government officers, some of them have already made their way into that side, awaiting the arrival of Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of Tanzania. Sam.
Right, and of course, Leto, it's not every other time that visiting head of state is received by the President at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. This time round, do you know who will be there to receive the President? Is it the President himself or the other senior state officials?
We are still not sure exactly who will be receiving the President for Tanzania, because the preparations so far are on a low key. They haven't really picked up the momentum, but we are seeing security piling up or building up around that area. We are still yet to know what exactly or who exactly will be receiving the President for Tanzania. Like you see there, those are some of the security details that are awaiting the arrival of President Samia Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania. But as and when, of course, we will be seeing any change of activities to signal who will be receiving the President of Tanzania, then that is exactly when we will really know the person or the government official that will be making their way here to receive Samia Suluhu Hassan. But what we understand is there could be no really much activities here at the JKIA where the President of Tanzania will be landing, and that a lot of activities will be conducted at State House, Nairobi. And so that giving you an indication that there could be no really so much activities here. All the activities shifted to State House, Nairobi, including the guard of honor that the President of Tanzania will be inspecting at State House, Nairobi. Sam.
Right, and let's obviously, at other times when such a visit is taking place, you would see the traditional dancers, and of course we are living in very different times because of COVID-19. Have you been able to cite any dancer or dancers?
Some where the President of Tanzania will be landing, according to my observation, is still silent until this moment. That tells you that there could be no really pomp and color like we used to see before the COVID-19 pandemic struck the globe. And that is exactly what it looks like here at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, where a low-key arrival or a low-key reception of the President of Tanzania, owing to the COVID-19 protocols being put in place, including the people accessing that particular site, have been reduced to a minimal number. That tells you that the government and the organizers of this particular event at this section are keen on ensuring that the COVID-19 protocols are being adhered to the latter in terms of reducing any amount of man-to-man interaction, and also the congestion at that particular place where the President Suluhu Hassan will be landing. And so we haven't seen any sign of the traditional dancers going to that particular side. But we, as I told you, we will still be keeping an eye to see whether anything will be changing. But as we speak for now, Sam, that side is still very silent. The only people you can spot there are those doing the cleaning, preparations for the laying down the red carpet, and of course the security manning that section of the airport. And that tells you that it will be a low-key arrival right here at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and much of the honors that she was or she will be accorded will be done at the State House, Nairobi.
Right.
Sam.
All right, thank you so much, Stephen Leto there from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. We'll surely get back to you, but I'm just trying to look at the flags that you'll see at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. You'll see the flag of Kenya, the flag of what looks to be the Republic of Tanzania, and I don't know whether that's the East African Community flag. I could be wrong, but Leto can clarify. Are those the flags that are flying at the moment? Well, unfortunately, Stephen Leto didn't hear my question, but we'll get back there as soon as the time is ripe for the arrival of President Samia Suluhu. According to the schedule that we have, is that she should be, or the plane carrying her should be landing at the airport at about 9 a.m. and that's the arrival at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. She's then later expected to inspect a guard of honor and receive a 21-gun salute, of course, in honor of a head of state at State House. She'll then hold bilateral meetings at State House with President Uhuru Kenyatta to talk about different matters from international relations, foreign relations, to trade and other concerns that may be of importance for the two countries. She's then expected to attend an official state dinner in her honor. That is today. We'll be sure to tell you the details as soon as they become clear. Then tomorrow, being Wednesday, she'll address a joint sitting of Kenya's bicameral parliament, that is the Senate and the National Assembly, which should be happening at about 2:30 in the afternoon. Then she'll also hold consultations at a Kenya-Tanzanian business forum, and then thereafter she should be attending a session with the executive women in business, of course, at a time that she has become the first female president for the East African region. There's that aspiration for a lot of equality to be seen to happen in different sectors of the economy and leadership. Then for at the moment, which informs our conversation in a few minutes, we know that the trade between Kenya and Tanzania has been reducing, especially for the volume of trade for Kenya to Tanzania. And at the moment, the latest figures we have is that Kenya imported goods worth 29 billion shillings from Tanzania. Kenya exported goods worth 35.4 billion shillings to the Republic of Tanzania. So if you have to do the balance of trade, you see about a value of about 6 or so billion shillings, which has been declining over the past few years. And to help us have a conversation about this is Ken Okwaro from the Africa Center for People, Institutions and Society. Good morning. I'm fine, and thank you so much for making time for us. Even as we wait for the arrival of the president, of course, there has been a lot of concern, and especially the relations between the two countries since the tenure of the former president, now the late President John Pombe Magufuli, visiting the country in October 2016, and until now, no other state visit he had made to the Republic. But what would you describe as the state of affairs for the two countries when it comes to these foreign relations?
I think Kenya and Tanzania, and I think for the rest of East African countries, we are in this community where everyone thinks and expects that we would be cordial in terms of our relations. But when it comes to some of the most important things, especially regarding trade and investment, we have seen tiffs here and there. We have seen, struggles between our two nations, especially on things where you would expect that because we are in the community, we have agreed to move goods here and there, people across borders, that such kind of things are things you would be seeing happening freely. But news after news is when I'm reading here, and I'm sure you cover these things, about how we will go to the border and you hear traders complaining about products or trucks have been stopped, or things have been banned the other side, or tariffs have been increased and things like that. So in terms of trade, I'll tell you, we trade as neighbors, but we have not maximized our trade relations, and we have a long history of this kind of tiffs, way from when our countries became independent, and a lot of people, political scientists, have linked them to the ideologies that happened when our nations began. So some of these have inculcated ideas amongst the citizens in Tanzania and in Kenya, that sometimes we can't do things very cordially. So,
and yes, you may talk of the historical perspective of the ideologies, because Tanzania began as more or less socialist sort of economy or community or society. Then the Kenyan context was more capitalistic, if I may put it so, and then that changed. But then when you look at even the birth of the first East African community, then it flopped. I mean, where do you trace the main challenge? Because we appear to have better trading relations with Uganda than Tanzania, yet all of them are in the East African region.
In fact, if you looked at it from a more economic perspective, you'll say that there's more opportunity in Tanzania. It's a bigger economy, population is bigger, they have more resources. So you'd expect that even our country would be going at, more aggressive economic diplomacy to trade with them. But when you look at our figures, we trade more with Uganda, and it's because of what we're talking about. It looks like the relations with Ugandans in terms of trade and investment has been smoother. And like I was telling you, some of these things can be traced back to then. There are things that people hold, whether they're government officers, or whether they are businessmen, or they are ordinary citizens, who will say, well, in Kenya, or they'll say, those are Tanzanians. And some of those things, actually, when you come to the crux of the matter of trade, they prevent trade from happening. So you hear there's a customs officer somewhere at the border who prevents chicken from passing, or who confiscates animals from across the border. And they have many different reasons. Some people say Kenyans will come and steal our land here. Some people say Kenyans will come and take over everything from this side. But both sides, they have their reasons why they don't like why the state of affairs happens that way. But for me, it links directly to how we were socialized politically.
But when they say they're afraid that Kenyans will come and take over whatever property is in Tanzania, or they'll stop animal movement or what have you, is it because of the feelings of the people of Tanzania? Is because of trade barriers that have been put by the Tanzanian Republic against Kenya and the other neighbors?
Well, what we are in is a trading bloc. So you expect that there are rules and there are policies that even when there are disputes, because disputes happen, whether you go to the European Union or European Community, you go to where the US is trading with the rest of the people in North America, those disputes occur. But when they occur, there are mechanisms. So if someone says in Kenya we have tested maize and we have realized there's a lot of aflatoxin in the maize that is coming from Tanzania, when we ban them, we're supposed to provide the reasons why. So our authorities are supposed to provide us, Tanzanians, reasons why we're banning or we're restricting movement of product. But when some of those things are done and reasons are not provided that are convincing, then people begin to be jittery and feel like it's unfair and things like that. And you can use the example of the issue of I think cigarettes. Cigarettes that come from Kenya into Tanzania. I think there has been I think an percent tariff on top of what exists. And businesses here in Kenya are complaining that this is being done because for Tanzania is not explaining why they're doing this, but we are in the community and they're supposed to provide preferential treatment to Kenyan products in that line, for example. So if those matters are not addressed using the mechanisms that exist, the instruments and structures of the EAC, then you leave people to whims and what I think about you and what this government official feels. Remember the time for COVID-19 when, because we banned a flight the other side, there's retaliation on this side. But really, there are things that sometimes can be addressed when people sit down and agree to deal with them.
And we'll continue to talk about that because you know that Tanzania belongs to different trade blocks or economic blocks. But Stephen Leto, if you're still there, so yes, this is the second foreign trip by the president of Tanzania, and the first one was to Kampala in Uganda, then the second one is Kenya. We're just wondering why Kenya, why now? I know we had seen a delegation to Tanzania led by Ambassador Amina Mohammed, but why now?
I mean, Sam, remember Kenya has been referred to as a fulcrum of economic development in the larger East African region. And President Uhuru Kenyatta is currently the president. President Uhuru Kenyatta is currently the chair of the East Africa region, and that puts Suluhu's priorities top to visit Kenya in terms of having the relationship between Kenya and Tanzania at par, because there has been a lot of rows at the border points, especially the issue of trade, just like we've discussed there with your guest in studio. There has been a lot of diplomatic frictions between the two countries, and her coming to Kenya is seen as a way of softening the relationship and bringing the relationship between the two countries back on track. Kenya, being the fulcrum of the economic development in the larger East African region, is also forms a part and basically forms one of the reasons that really the president of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu, has really to be closer to Kenya as much as possible and improve the diplomatic and, of course, trade ties between the two nations. You've seen also her going to Uganda. That paints a picture that President Samia Suluhu is also keen on having the larger East African economic bloc intact, so that, or because economists will tell you that a united region is one that is going to develop together. Some, of course, we are still here waiting for Suluhu. When she arrives, of course, we'll be bringing you the live pictures from that airside. But from what I understand is there will be a change of route, Sam, because when she will be taking off from this particular place where the plane will be touching down, she will not be using Mombasa Road because of heavy construction that will be ongoing. And so we understand that she could be using the southern bypass and then Langata Road, Mbagathi Road, and accessing State House. So motorists from that particular section of the roads have to be very, or have to plan themselves between the time that Madam President Suluhu will be making her way to State House, Nairobi. Sam, it's still silent at the airside. We're still awaiting for her arrival. As and when she touches down, we'll be here with you. Sam.
All right, Leto, of course we have to wait because it's just about 2 minutes to 9 o'clock. That's the time that we've been told she'll be arriving. Well, things may change based on what the travel situations are. But still here in studio, Kenneth, and you were talking about what I would call a bit of hostility between the two countries. And I had asked you the question about whether it's policies, it's just how people feel. But how much of an impact is having an East African community that is expanding? And now you have not just Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, you also have Burundi, you have Rwanda, you have South Sudan, and I think DRC is seeking to join. Then, of course, Tanzania, with its very long, or is it wide, coastal strip, has great opportunities and is also a member of the South African Development Corporation. What do you see as the biggest hindrance to us improving our relations to an extent that we're able to depend on each other and to have mutual benefits economically?
Well, for me, I think it has to begin from the heads of states, and I think our president has been trying to do this. Remember the last time he went to Chateau and met Dr. Magufuli, and I think at that point things actually eased up a bit. So for me, the hindrance is in translating. For example, today when Madam President comes in today and goes to State House and they have these meetings with the President and the business community and the rest, translating those agreements and those niceties at State House into actual, administration of trade at the border, for me is usually the problem. I mean, even with trade with Uganda, you will hear that government has directed that blah, blah, blah is going to happen. But you go to those borders and you hear those things have not been translated by the officers who are there. And I don't know whether it's because of the way they are socialized or because of the way civil service works. So we have had this meeting here, we have had agreements that we are going to reduce the tensions, we are going to get our businessmen and women to go cross each sides and increase cooperation and do business with one another. But when they go back to the routes that they utilize and to the border points, and they find that government officers in those areas have not, are not actualizing those things, then we usually fall back to where we were. But more importantly, I think some of these agreements and these things we sign during visits can be operationalized and be monitored. And the media can also help in this, but also government mechanisms can do that. If we say that we are going to reduce NTBs, the old things that people call NTBs when they are not, and some of those things can be monitored and followed. We said we are going to make sure that there is no more, confiscating of things at the border. How much of that happened a year later? And then how can we take both governments to account on that?
Right. So
for me, that can be a mechanism to deal with those hindrances. Yeah.
And I understand that we may have to review our timings because President Samia Suluhu has just left Tanzania. We had expected that she would be arriving at 9 o'clock, but now the arrival time has been revised to 10 a.m. So Stephen Leto will be at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for longer. But even as she arrives, what else will happen is that once she gets to the country, like Stephen Leto told us earlier on, she'll be heading to State House for that state reception. There will be a 21-gun salute. She'll be inspecting a guard of honor and then hold bilateral talks. We understand that at 2 p.m. She'll be visiting the Jomo Kenyatta Mausoleum, the Parliament buildings, to pay tribute to the founding father of the nation, that is Jomo Kenyatta. And thereafter, then other events will follow, including a state dinner expected to be held in her honor later in the day. And as we continue to look at this, of course, as we wait for the arrival of President Samia Suluhu, being the very first time Tanzanian president has visited the country since November 2016. Of course, of concern is the relations between the two countries, and I was looking at some statistics that I would want you, Kenneth, to focus on of how the trade between the two countries has been. And you will realize that over the years, this has been declining. The volume of trade between the two countries may have remained constant, but the much that Kenya exports to Tanzania has been declining. Is there any reason that you describe as causing this, that we are now selling less to Tanzania?
There should be a lot of reasons, and some of them, one, are just frustrations. If you're a business person and you're trying to get milk products across the border to Tanzania or cement or whatever it is, and it takes so much time to get them across the border, it affects your business processes. So, and some people just get put off and they say, I'll focus on another market. That alone can account for some of these reductions. But there are also issues with the tax rates and the regimes that they implement the other side. We were just talking about cigarettes a moment ago, about how Tanzania claims that they're adding this 80%, but all the products are